We're back at it again. Me and my son Benji went thrifting for shoes to resell online. One of the main things I will be showing y'all today is which brands and styles I never pick up. I wanted to make that the big focus in today's Thrift With Me vlog because for beginners who can't really base their decisions on style or quality of shoes because they don't really know that yet, knowing which brands are a big no is super helpful because then you don't have to waste your time looking something up that is worthless. But of course, I will also be showing y'all all the shoes I did pick up and explain why I did. On the screen, you'll see screenshots that show how much the shoes are listed for on my reselling platforms, or if they already sold, you'll see how much they sold for and whether they sold on Poshmark, eBay, or Depop. This day was Martin Luther King Day, so the entire store was 50% off. So just keep that in mind. When you see the prices, cut that in half. The first ones that I see here are these Airwalk boots. This is a worthless brand that I never pick up. Then I saw these shiny rubber rain boots. The first thing I do when I see rain boots or any sort of rubber tall boots that catch my eye is turn them around and look at that back heel. On the heel, if it is a noteworthy brand, it will have the brand logo plastered right there. These boots look like new, but just by looking at them, I can tell they're worth nothing. It has no brand inside either. I call these like worthless Amazon brands when they don't have any sort of branding anywhere. And I skip those. I don't even pick those up based on style. Here we have these Sam Edelman penny boots. Those used to do really well for me. There was a time where they would sell like crazy, but now the sale of them has started to slow down, and those have a lot of damage in the inside lining anyway. Then I got to these Steve Madden chunky boots. They were $6.50. I love that they had the lug sole. That is a neat feature to have on these chunky boots. They were a little bit more on the plain side, so I was kind of debating whether I should or not, but in the end I did bring them home. Here are these Ariat old school looking chukka style boots. They did have a little bit of heel drag. Just the overall look of them was not that great, so I just put those right back. Here we have these wedge booties, and they were by, I think that said Morona, which is a brand that I don't pick up. Some more wedge boots, and these are actually by UGG. Normally I do pick these up. They were $17.50. That's a nice price point for some boots that are in this style, but the condition just wasn't there, so I put those right back. These boots caught my eye because they were Stuart Weitzman. Usually Stuart Weitzman tall boots do really well. They were $12.50. So all of that checked out. The fact that they were platform was good too, but the overall condition of the suede was just not there for those. These are JBU shoes. I am slowly reducing the amount of times I pick up this brand because it's kind of like a hit or miss. Sometimes they sell really quickly and sometimes they sit for too long. I like the shape of the heel on these boots, but they were by Fashion Nova, which is a brand that I normally don't pick up, and they were $7.50. That's a lot to pay for that brand because it doesn't sell for much. These were some very nice boots by this brand called BC's. I've tried it once or twice before. They were $12.50. I'm not too knowledgeable about this brand, but to me, $12.50 seemed like a lot for this brand. Still though, because they were so cool, I wanted to do research on them, so I put them aside to do comps later. These I do know about. They are by a brand called Miss Moose. I don't think I've ever been let down by this brand in the past. Every single time I pick it up, it sells for good money and pretty quickly too. And the great part about this brand is that it's normally not priced up at the thrift store. It's not one that they value much. They were in great condition all over. The bottom soles were excellent. They were that slouchy looking style. They were only $7.50 and they sold pretty quickly, like always. Those velvet boots were pretty nice, but they were by a brand called Cape Robin, which is almost always a pass for me. It doesn't resell for that much. These boots were really nice too. They were by a brand called Comfort View, which I do like picking up when they are cheap and when they are in a wide width. They were $8.50. That is a little bit up there for the brand Comfort View. Because it is a cheap brand to begin with, I like to pick it up when I find it for about $5 or below and in like new condition. The condition passed on these. The price was iffy, although I could probably work with it because they are boots and not just some simple flats. I was trying to find the size to see if it was a wide like they usually are, but I couldn't find it anywhere, so I just left those behind. Here we have these Clarks, and like always with Clarks, I like to look at the year. There off to the right hand side, you can usually see the year. That plays a role in whether I pick up Clarks or not. If there are some cheap, like new Clark shoes that are a year or two old, I'm more likely to pick those up. They're a little bit older than that, I may still pick them up. And then the super old ones, they must have some very unique qualities in order for me to get those. Isola, I don't think I've ever tried picking up that brand. Either way, those boots were in terrible condition. Sun and Stone is a brand that I don't pick up either. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's a Walmart brand or one that they sell on the Walmart website. Here are these Ked nylon type rain boots. They were $6.50. I had sold some that were in this style before, but they were in collaboration with a brand called Paper Rifle. Those did really well, sold for a good amount and pretty quickly, so that's why I decided to get those to look over them, to do comps to see if they were worth it as well, even though it wasn't a collab. That was just Keds and that's it. It turned out it wasn't worth much, so I just left those behind in the end. Here we have these chunky, studded, spiky, chain detailed boots. I loved these. They were by Jessica Simpson. They had the lug sole, the patent leather. This I'm pretty sure is going to end up selling on Depop. I still have them listed now. They were $10, which is a bit much for Jessica Simpson, but because of the style and the condition of these boots, I could not leave them behind. Here's these quirky bright purple gold chain boots. So pretty, but the brand wasn't worth much and they didn't convince me. Anne Klein is a brand I pick up sometimes. I treat these like I treat the cheap brands that I pick up, which is that they must be very cheap and in like new condition. The condition wasn't good enough on those. Bandolino. This is a brand also that it's kind of like the cheap brands. It must be in like new condition and very cheap. This was neither, so I just put them back. The more we were in the store, the busier it got, so it started to get a little bit hard to go up and down the aisles with Benji, especially because I think they narrowed them down a little bit. They switched things around and now there's not as much room as there used to be. So you're gonna see me going down the aisles, picking out the shoes, and when I'm done with an aisle, I go off to the side to kind of look over the shoes more thoroughly with y'all and explain whether I'm gonna take it or not. From that aisle, we have these very volatile boots. It is one that I do like picking up, but it's one that has to be in great condition and it has to have a lot of unique features in order for it to do well because it is a boutique-y type brand that's not worth that much. Then we have these Mark Fisher boots. Mark Fisher is a brand that I'm very selective with because it's not really that desirable online from what I've seen, because when I list them, it's not like they fly off the shelves or sell for a lot of money. But from time to time, I do find a shoe style by this brand that fits the bill. Like these right here would have, because they are tall, equestrian, that dark brown, classic tall boot that sells a lot during the winter. But the bottom was just too iffy for me. There was too much heel drag, and then to top it off, they wanted $12.50 for these boots. That's way too much for Mark Fisher boots that aren't in excellent condition. These boots were also beautiful. They had a platform, the stiletto heel, but again, $15 for Guess boots, no thank you. It seemed like that was a common theme in this thrift trip. They were pricing up things a lot, more than normal at least. I never expected these boots to be torrid, and they priced them at $15, which is kind of a lot to pay for torrid boots unless they're like knee high or thigh high or something. But still, I felt like those boots had enough good things going for it to at least put off to the side and decide later. They had the shiny patent leather, the chunky block heel, and just the retro look of them. In the end, I did bring them home. I talked about this brand in the last thrift with me. It's called Linea Paolo. I'm not even sure how you say this brand, but I do pick it up quite often, I'd say. Not a whole lot. I wouldn't say it's a bread and butter brand, but I do find it and pick it up a lot. These were $8.50. Some penny style loafers, shiny leather, in great condition. I'm sure those are going to do well. Here we have these Franco Sardo. They were loafers as well, similar to the ones I just showed, except they were more plain. They didn't have the strap in the front. The wear on those was questionable, so I just put those back. Chunky Luxo fur-lined boots, dark brown, $8.50. They were probably the brand Universal Thread, and that one I will pick up again if it's in like new condition and very cheap. Here we have these Topshop snake print boots that are very dirty, so I put those back. These shoes caught my attention because I felt like I've seen that brand Inca on Poshmark somewhere, so I decided to put them off to the side to do comps later. In the end, it wasn't worth much, so I didn't get them. Here we have these Clarks flats with a medallion in the front. I've sold quite a bit of these exact flats by Clarks, but these had too much darkening on the inside sole, and in the bottom they had some heel drag. They were $6.50, which is an okay price. I would have paid that if they were in better condition. Here we have these Vince Camuto studded boots. They were $6.50, which is a great price for this style of boot by Vince Camuto. The overall condition looked great. It did have some like wear, but I feel like that was intentional distressing, and sometimes that's a great keyword to use with boots, distressed. So I was about to take it, and then Benji said check the studs on that boot, and sure enough, one of the studs was loose, so I decided to put them right back. These loafers are by a brand called Rockport, which is a brand that makes shoes for work, mostly for men and women, but the condition on those wasn't that great. These boots were very beautiful, very Depop-ish. I feel like they would sell there, and they were new with tags, and they were by either Universal Thread or A New Day, one of those Target brands. But I couldn't find the price anywhere, and they are very strict at this store. If something doesn't have the price, they are not going to sell it to you. So when I find that something doesn't have the price, I just put it back. Don't even waste my time trying to get them to sell it to me. That's that aisle done. On to the next one. I found these Olukai slip-on little flat shoes. They were only $3.50. That's an excellent price for Olukai. But the condition, I kept going back and forth with it. It wasn't that terrible, and sometimes Olukai will sell with a little bit of wear here and there, but I just could not. I could not get over how dark the inside was, so I put those back even though they were very cheap. Here's this brand that I'm still experimenting with. It's called Easy Street. These were only $6.50. And they were like new. What sealed the deal for me with these was the fact that they were a 9 extra wide. That adds a little bit of value to it. And although this is a brand that's on the cheaper side that I like getting for about $4 to $5, I decided to go for it because of all those cool things, that it was a wide, navy blue, like new. These boots were by a brand called Abella Comfort. That is a cheap brand that I do pick up quite often, but I've only tried their pumps before. I've never gotten boots by them, and that is a cheap brand that I like picking up only when it's a wide width. I feel like that's when it sells the best. Those boots weren't a wide width. If they were a little cheaper, I may have tried them. And then I came across these beautiful Mark Fisher ballet flats. I sell a lot of these minimalist nude type flats. They had the split toe in the front, a little bit more on the pointy side, and the price was there for these. $3 is not that bad for Mark Fisher, but again, this is one that I like picking up only when it's in like new condition. These weren't. It had darkening on the back heel, and also in the front toe box they did have a little bit of scraping. The reason I picked up these boots is because I thought they may be Tao boots or Neo boots, but they turned out to be a brand called Flex Step, which is one that I skip all the time. Here's some more Mark Fisher shoes. These were some pointed pumps for $6.50 with the mesh detail. They were very pretty, but the price is iffy, and also they had a little bit of wear on the stiletto heel. These shoes were by a brand called Alex Marie. They were new with tags, but this is similar to Antonio Milani for me. I hardly ever pick it up. It has to be something that is really eye-catching in order to convince me. These didn't. These shoes were by an athletic brand called Topo or something like that. What initially caught my eye about these is that boa closure that it has on the shoelaces. Sometimes that can add value to shoes from what I've seen, so I decided to put them at the bottom of my cart to do comps later, but after doing research I decided not to get them. These pumps are by the brand called Kelly and Katie, but that is an older tag by them, and the condition on the bottom was pretty bad. Here we have these Guess boots. I did like the style and the color. However, because they had a little bit of peeling in the front toe box, I decided to put them back. Here's these all black studded boots by Gianni Beanie. Too much wear everywhere. I do pick up quite a bit of Gianni Beanie, but I feel what does best for me in that brand is like formal special occasion style heels. If the studs on these were a silver color or a gold color, it would have been much better. Here's this brand Easy Street again. Some minimalist, simple black pumps, but the wear was too bad on those. This brand is called Cloudwalkers, and to me this one is similar to Torrid, to Lane Bryant, to Catherine's, and to Ashley Stewart. It's like they focus on making shoes for plus size, the wide widths, the extra wide widths. So anytime I find this brand, I look into it, but the condition on these wasn't great. Here's some bright red 9 West ballet flats for $3.50. Like I mentioned earlier, 9 West is a brand I will pick up if it's cheap and in excellent condition. These shoes did have those two things going for them, so I bought those. I was about to look into these Jessica Simpson shoes, and then Benji pointed out the Tory Burch shoes. I've sold this style of wedge shoes by Tory Burch many times. So I was just looking over the condition. It checked out. The price was a little bit iffy. That's what, like $23. Normally I like to pay about $17 for them, so that's like $6 more. I decided to put them off to the side and look over my past sales to see if it would be worth picking them up at that price. In the end, I decided to go for it because I feel there's still room for profit even at that $23 price point. This brand right here is a bread and butter for me. It's called Earth Origins. This is a little bit of an older style, but they were only $4.50. The condition was great overall, and I feel like this is a good, comfortable walking type shoe for the summer, so it was a yes for me. Here I went back to those Jessica Simpson shoes I was about to look into earlier. The condition is excellent. $5 is not that bad for Jessica Simpson shoes in this condition, but the style did not convince me all the way. I'm not sure how trendy these wraparound lace-up shoes are right now. I put them in my cart to decide later, but in the end I decided not to get them. These studded flats were pretty eye-catching. They were, I think, by Mark Fisher, but again, condition was bad. There's some Free People booties that look just like these right here that sell really well. These were universal thread, so I put them back. Kenneth Cole Reaction shoes I usually don't pick up, very rarely. These are by a brand called Fioni, which is a brand that I like to pick up when it's very cheap and excellent condition and a cool style, like the retro Y2K styles. Here's some more nude ballet flats. I love the scalloping detail around the trim. Lauren Conrad is a brand that I skip all of the time, but I would have gave these a chance if they were just a bit cheaper. These shoes caught my eye because that brand looks familiar. Cravo. I looked them up on my Poshmark closet and it turns out I have sold boots by this brand before that did decently well. At first glance, they looked like they were in excellent condition, but then I realized that the insole was a little bit unglued, so that's why I did not get them. Like I said earlier, I love picking up navy blue office pumps. These were by Naturalizer, and the added benefit here is that they were a size 8.5 wide. I do pick up Naturalizer even if they're not wide, but when they are, it just means they're going to sell a lot faster. And sure enough, these did. As you'll see on the screenshot, they already sold. These Kohan driving loafers were beautiful. On the outside, they looked like they were in great condition. They were only $4.50, which is an awesome price as well, but the inside just did not look that great. BCBG is a brand that I really don't like picking up. It doesn't sell that well. It sits for a long time and it ends up selling for very little. But I took a chance on these because they were in like new condition. Just a pretty neutral color with the gold chain. They were $6.50. The profit may not end up being great on these, but hopefully they don't take too long to sell and it can be at least a quick flip. These I was excited to find. They are by the brand Anthropologie. Every single time I pick up Anthropologie shoes, they sell in a decent time frame and for a very good amount. These were $10, but for this brand, that is not bad at all. They were clog and platform, so when that is the case, I like to look at the wood very carefully to make sure there are no cracks because that is very common with these wood style shoes. Croft and Barrow is a cheap brand that I skip all of the time. Here's some more Nine West pumps. These were only $4.50 and they appeared to be in excellent condition all over. However, once I brought them home and I took off that sticker, it did cause some peeling on the inside, and then I realized that it also had a little bit of scuffs right at the front toe. So always make sure to try to peel off stickers at the store, at least very slightly, just to see if it's gonna cause damage once you get home. And always look at the front toe box, especially on these style of pumps, because that is where often there is wear on these type of shoes. I normally do check out the front toe box, but on these I guess I missed it. These boots were the brand Vince Camuto. Overall, the condition checked out. The only thing I was going back and forth with was that white residue type thing it had towards the front. They were only $8.50, which is not a bad price at all for this style of Vince Camuto boots. But in the end, I wasn't too sure if I was going to be able to get these cleaned up good enough, so I decided not to get them. This right here is a super old naturalizer tag, which I will pick up sometimes if they are in like new condition. Those weren't, so I didn't get them. Some more Western boots. These ended up being by the brand Durango, I'm sure, which is not one that sells for that much. And I do have some in my store right now that I've been sitting for a while, so I didn't even want to take the chance on those. These platform boots were by Madden NYC, which is a cheaper version of Steve Madden. I like picking them up when they're very cheap. These were $7.50, and if they were in like new condition, I would have picked those up. Just by looking at these boots, I knew they were by a brand called Not Rated. They make Western style boots, but with some pizzazz. They always have some lace and diamonds, and they just make them look very girly. They were $7.50, which is not a bad price for these fashion Western boots by Not Rated. However, the condition did not work for me. These Western boots were also very beautiful, and these were in like new condition. But again, it is a no brand shoe, which I do not like getting. These boots were very beautiful. They were white, snakeskin, thigh-high, slouchy, pointed toe, lots of very cool features. The price was $10, and now I just needed to figure out what brand they were. They didn't have a side zipper, so it was hard to see. We had to use Benji's phone flashlight to try to see what brand they were. They ended up being a brand called Lemonade, Shoe Dazzle, and there's another one that starts with an F. I forget the name, but all of those boutique type cheap online shoe brands I never pick up. Then we get to these chunky platform Dolce Vita espadrille shoes, more like penny loafers. They were $10, which is a little bit pricey for Dolce Vita. However, since these were in excellent condition, they were at least worth looking up comps, but after doing that, I decided not to get them. These Vince Camuto boots were $8.50, kind of like the previous ones. They did have a little bit of heel drag, but I loved the studs on the side, and I loved the color of these too. Inside, the condition was excellent. That's something I try to be very careful with these long boots, that the inside doesn't have any sort of peeling. Those Vince Camuto boots checked out, so I did end up buying them. So here's what we got in this aisle. First up, we have these Dr. Scholl's wedge booties. There was a time where I was going crazy with these. I was picking them up a lot and selling them a lot. These weren't the best price. $8.50 is not that great, but they were in like new condition, so I decided to get them. These sock booties caught my eye because I like the color and I like the diamonds they had all over. But once I looked over them a little bit more, I saw that they did have some missing diamonds, so I decided to put those back. I did not even check what brand they were. These coconut boots do really well. They were only $7.50, but I saw that it did have a loose strap, so I didn't get them. Franco Sardo is a brand that I pick up a lot, as you may know, and boots do really well by them. $12.50 is not that bad for some equestrian style Franco Sardo boots. This is an older style Franco Sardo tag, so these boots are probably very old, and even though they're in great condition, it's just the feeling of them. I could not get past it. It felt too cheap. I held onto them in my hand for a while, just trying to decide if yes or no. In the end, I didn't get them. Bass and GH Bass & Co, I think it's called, is a great brand when they are retro styles, when they're like Y2K chunky boots or something like that. These weren't. They were more on the simple side, and the wear was too bad. Again, with the Antonio Milani, it is a brand that I skip probably 99% of the time. I did like these boots a lot because they had the pointed toe, they had that slouchy look, which is something that I think is still trending. I still look out for it and make sure to add that keyword to my listings. It also had a cone heel, something different from your typical block heel, but the price on these was $10 and I just could not get past that. If there were like $7, $6 or $5, that would have been a lot better. Finally, we get to an exciting find. These were by Born of Concept, which they also make Born. They also make Born Crown, and I'm sure there's like one or two other brands that this brand is responsible for. I pick all of them up as long as they're in great condition. $10 for some lace-up wedge boots, black suede with that contrasting stitching, in good condition overall. This was an excellent find for me. I just made sure there was no damage anywhere inside the lining and on the outside, and it was a yes. Jessica Simpson pumps can do well, but they must be very cheap and in like new condition. These were cheap, but the condition was good, not great. Most of the time when shoes say Vibram on them, they're worth at least looking into further. These were way too expensive and the brand was worthless, so I put them back. I got excited to find these Resell sneakers. Some Resell sneakers can do really well. These were in great condition overall. The price was a little bit expensive though. They were $17.50. I put them at the bottom of my cart to do comps. They didn't look that great, so I did not end up getting them. These flats were by Skechers. I sell a lot of ballet flats and these looked super comfortable. I put them aside to do comps. I did end up buying them, but I never listed them. I kept them for myself. Here I'm just going down the aisle, picking out any shoes that catch my eye that look like they may be worth something. And in the end, I'm going to look over them more thoroughly just because the aisles were way too cluttered this day. First, we have these Clarks. They were size 12 wide and they were in excellent condition, but from past experience, I know that Clark sneakers don't really sell as good as their other shoes they're more well known for, which are their loafers, their dress and work shoes, even sandals and pumps. So I put them aside to do comps, and after doing that, I saw it wasn't worth it. I left them behind. I did end up getting these Keen shoes though. They were $7.50 in excellent condition for a hiking shoe. Here are these SAS shoes. These aren't the best style, I must admit, so I wouldn't have got them if they were any more expensive than this. But since they were only $3.50, I just went ahead and got them. Here are these white Converse platform chunky shoes. I almost left these behind just because they did have a few like black or dark scuffs here and there, and I did not want to take the time to get all of that cleaned up, but I figured it can't be that hard of a cleanup, especially with a wet magic eraser. It should be pretty easy enough, so I went ahead and got those. Here are these Corral boots. This is an excellent Western boot brand to pick up, even though they were only $3.50, which is super cheap for this brand. I didn't pick them up because of the condition and because of the style. I've sold it before and it took a very, very long time to sell. Here's some more Converse shoes. These are very similar to the white ones I showed earlier. They were $10 in good condition overall. They did have like this white sort of like film going around the midsole, so I was really debating it. I checked the size just to make sure it wasn't a very small size. 7 is a popular size, so I went ahead and got those, and they did end up selling on Depop. I also got these Vans here. These also sold on Depop, and these were $12.50. The Vans that have a much flatter midsole, I don't like to pick up anymore, but if they're a little bit more chunky or platform, then I will. Now we're moving on to the men's shoes, and here's where Benji did take a break, so I'm recording all of the footage while checking out the shoes at the same time. So if you see the quality drop here, that is why. First up, we have these Morel Vibram So shoes. They went at $17.50 for these. I thought about it, but in the end I didn't get them due to condition. Same thing thing with these Uncloud sneakers. They were $20 and I didn't like the condition, so I put those back. Here we have these Born Chukka boots. They were $6.50, but they had missing insoles. And men's Chukka boots aren't the best of sellers. I'll pick them up sometimes, but for the most part, I avoid men's Chukka boots in most brands. This brand looked really good to me, just the way it was printed there on the label, the sturdiness of the boots. They look like they could be worth something, and I always like to look into these high quality men's slip resistant boots, but after thinking about it a little more, I just did not like the condition of these boots. They had too much creasing and scuffs, so I put those back. Sometimes men's Clark work shoes can do really well, but I try to stick to the ones that are in excellent condition and a more newer style. This was an older style. They were from 2011, too many scuffs, so I put them back too. Here we have these Western boots. They had the black crackle leather, which is unique. I did not recognize that Western boot brand, and the overall wear did not convince me. Then we get to these Kohan in collaboration with Todd Snyder. Like I've said many times before, anytime I find a bread and butter brand or a popular brand that I buy quite often in collaboration with something else, I like to look into it, because sometimes, depending on who the collab is with, those things can be worth a lot of money. These were $6.50. I put them aside to do the comps. It looked decent enough, so I ended up getting them. I found these Ugg boots in the men's section. They were $12.50. In overall good condition. They are just going to need a little bit of work right there on the toe box. I'm gonna have to like stuff some paper in them, and once I brush them out, they're gonna look good enough. I also found these Soul by Naturalizer wedge boots. They were knee high and they had like a stretchy panel in the back. $15 is quite a bit to pay for the Soul by Naturalizer brand, because it is like a cheaper version, but the style made it worth it. I went ahead and gave them a shot. These croc embossed boots were by the brand Johnston and Murphy. I do like buying it in men's shoes. They do really well if they're a more modern style. In men's dress shoes, women's sometimes can do well for me, but they tend to sit for a long time. I ended up getting these though because they were only $3.50 and they appear to be in great condition other than a few scuffs around the trim. We just exited that first store. There was a lot more stuff there today than there was last time. Today we got a total of 31 items. Normally they'll keep like the extra good stuff supposedly behind the counter. I got 3 items there. I'll try to remember to record clips to show you what those were. 31 items, and I spent a total of $335.13. We're gonna go to one more store. Hopefully it's just as busy and we can end up with a total of about 60 to 70 items today. Here are the 3 shoes I got behind the counter that I didn't get to show because we had to check out and leave. First, we have these Bear Paw super furry boots. I bought some of these in a different brand. It started with a T. I'll put it on the screen, and they sold really fast and really well. And although these aren't that brand, they look similar, and I feel like this look is just unique. It also has like feather details here at the trim, so I'm thinking these will do good, and they were $17.50. The other boots I got from behind the counter that day were these here, some Western boots. Brown and the turquoise color is always a great combo to be on the lookout for with Western boots. They are in like new condition. I have no idea what this brand is. I've never heard of it before, and I was trying to do comps while I was there, but it's kind of like a you gotta hurry up type of thing, because you ask them for the boots in the back and then there's other people who need help as well, and it's just hard to look up comps right then and there. When I ask for stuff from behind the counter, most of the time it has to be a swift decision that I have to make. Since they were like new, it's a classic color combo for Western boots. It has this harness strap with this thing here. I forgot what it's called, a concho or something like that. It has these turquoise studs as well. I decided to just go with it. They were a total of $22.50, or more like $23, but I think these will work out fine. Maybe the profit won't be as big bag because they're not a super well-known brand, and even just feeling them, it's not like they feel super sturdy or very well made, but they're decent enough. The other thing I was super excited to find were these Nike wedge shoes. They're so beautiful. It's like a pearly white color with a tan suede, literally like new. And I talked about these in the last thrift with me. I've heard good things about this style of shoe, that it does well, and I did end up listing some black and silver ones for like over $200. They haven't sold yet, but when I saw the price of these, it was only $27.50. I thought these have to work because they look like new. I will be able to make a decent profit out of these. I'm gonna try them on. If I like the way they look and if they fit me well, then I may keep them. But most of the time I don't like high shoes, so we'll see. Before we continue with this thrift with me, I want to take the time to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Legacy Online School. I first started researching online schools a few years ago. At that time, my daughter was going through some stuff and she wasn't able to attend public schools. So I needed to find an online program she could do from home. I tried out a few that did not end up working out just because they weren't engaging enough. Legacy Online School is a completely different story though. First and foremost, I want you to know that this school is a fully accredited K-12 private online school. The curriculum is taught by certified teachers, and they do issue transcripts and genuine diplomas just like public schools do. It is for kids who are in elementary, middle, or high school. They do have AP and honors courses available there, and one of my favorite things is that they have a lot of different options for extracurricular activities, like different virtual clubs that your child can attend to learn and grow with other kids. To do their work in this school, students log into the learning management system. There they will find their schedule, their coursework, and everything else they need to get their work done. And it is so simple to use and navigate. They have lots of support everywhere on there for students. Another very great thing about this school is that students have the option of attending classes live, or they can go the self-paced route. They can also just attend certain courses to use as like supplemental education to brush up on certain skills or prepare for a test. Basically, Legacy Online School empowers families to pursue education on their own terms. So if you currently need, or if you ever need, a different education path than what the public schools have to offer, check out Legacy Online School. I'm sure you'll find an option there that suits you and your unique family situation. And as far as the enrollment process, it is so simple. You can enroll year-round, and your child can even attend trial classes to check out what everything is like before officially signing up for anything. The cost of this private online school is $149 a month, but they do offer different flexible payment options, including monthly, semesterly, and yearly. Depending on which one you go with, you will get a different discount. But if you do decide to sign up using the link below this video, you can get an additional 10% off a monthly plan for the first month. Just make sure you use the code Sandra10 when you enroll. Thank you again, Legacy Online School, for supporting my channel. Now back to the video. Right when I walked in, there was a bunch of shoes that someone left behind, so I decided to look through those before I got to the shelves. The first thing that caught my eye were these Carlos Santana Western boots. They were only $10, which is an okay price to pay for that style in Carlos Santana. They had the floral inlays, the pointed toe, but when I got home, I realized that one of the inlays had some wear. It was unsewn, so I had to price them a lot lower than I expected to. I should have looked those over a little bit better. The other thing that caught my eye here were these Eurosoft shoes. They were very cheap. They were only $2.50, but because of the wear in the lining, I didn't get those. Now onto the shelves. First up, we have these Clark booties that looked like it had a little bit of heel drag, but it was very minor. They were only $4.50, which is a great price for some Clark boots. They did look a little bit outdated, so I was trying to find what date they were were from. They ended up being from 2019, so not super recent, but not super old either. I like that it had some color contrast with the red knit pattern there, and in the end, I decided to go with it. Here we have these Kookaburra boots. They were $10. This is like a UGG sub-brand. Some of their boots can do well, but for these, I like to pay a lot less than I do for regular UGG boots. I did see that I put them in the cart, but I don't recall if I ended up getting them or not. You see a screenshot, that means I did, and if not, then I left them behind. BP, I think, is a Nordstrom brand. I really like these boots. They look like it'd be something that would do well on Depop, but I did not like that it had black scrapes throughout. Here we have these Franco Sardo, what I like to call granny boots. These lace-up style ones do really well in my normal bread and butter brands like Clark's, Soft, Franco Sardo. All of those I like to pick up when I find them, and they have the lace-up detail like that. They were only $5, a reddish brown leather, which is unique. That was a definite yes for those. These brown boots looked interesting, but then I saw that they were by this brand called Maurice's, which is one that I see a lot and I skip every single time. These boots also caught my eye. They were by Zara Woman. Zara has a lot of different lines. Zara Woman is one of their best performing shoe lines in my experience. They were only $8.50, but I did not like the wear. They had scuffs on the heel, on the bottom sole, and also the suede looked a little bit damaged too. I was very surprised when I found these shoes. I don't know how to say this brand name. It's called Giuseppe something. This is a designer brand that's worth a lot of money. It sells for a lot, especially if you can find some more modern styles. I forgot to show the price of these, but they were very, very cheap. I put them in the cart to do comps and decide later, but in the end, I decided not to get them just because of the wear on the bottom sole. Here's these Coach shoes with damage in the back. Coach doesn't do well to begin with. Those shoes were a definite no. Chain platform loafers have been doing really well for me, but those were a no brand shoe, so I left those behind. Here we have these Clark boots at $7.50. They were a moto style boot with a buckle detail, and overall great condition. The year was fairly recent, so everything checked out for those. I did get them. Knee-high boots by Clark's do really well for me during the winter, but these right here were way too dirty. In the past, that is something I would pick up and I would get them cleaned up and sell them, but nowadays that is something I just skip because I like to make my job as easy as possible once I get home. I don't want to get home with shoes that need deep cleaning and then I'm just going to put it off for way too long. These boots right here were in excellent condition. They were a Target brand. I'm pretty sure it was Universal Thread, so that would have been a definite yes if they were a lot cheaper than $12.50. Again, with these duck boots, I always get them, turn them around to see the brand. If I don't see any brand there, then most of the time they're worthless. And although these did have that thermalite feature and fur everywhere, since they were not a good brand, I didn't pick them up. Some more Clark shoes, but these did have a little bit of drag there in the front. They had a lot of creasing in the front too, so that's why I didn't pick those up. I did end up picking up these Fly London boots at $22.50, which is quite a bit to pay for them, but since they were new with tags, I decided to give them a shot. Once I got home, I realized that one of the shoelaces was missing, so this is something that I should have probably left behind. Here are these Fit Flop shoes. They had the sequin detail at the top, which made them pretty unique. They were only $8.50. That's a great price for Fit Flop sneakers, but the bottom was way too dirty, so I put those back too. Here we have these Naturalizer equestrian boots. That is a great combo. That brand with that style. They were only $6.50. I checked out the inside. Everything looked nice. No peeling or anything inside. So I decided to get them and they sold pretty quickly. Here we have some more Dr. Scholl's wedge boots. Like I mentioned earlier, this style of boot I was picking up a lot a while back and it was selling a lot for me. Not for much, but it was selling pretty quickly. So that's why I was picking them up anytime I found them. Now I skip them unless they're in like new condition, like the ones I showed earlier. Here we have these 9 West boots. The heel looked excellent. The bottom sole looked excellent. They were a light gray and a croc embossed pattern at $6.50. Another great feature about these is that they were pointed toe. I decided to give those a go. Here's this Nobo brand, which I'm pretty sure stands for no boundaries. It is a Walmart brand, kind of like Time and True. Those brands I will pick up if they are a cool style. Bonus if they are a wide, which these were. And aside from that, they had the studs, so I could add keywords like punk and goth and grunge. I did all of that and they sold on Depop pretty quickly. Here we have these Resell boots, excellent condition all over, had some neat tassel details at only $12.50. That was a definite yes. One of the tassels was damaged. I put it in the listing and in the description and they still ended up selling for a decent enough price, but if that damage wasn't there, I could have probably managed to sell them for just a bit more. Here we have some classic Tory Burch flats with that gold large logo. That is a definite yes most of the time, as long as condition checks out. These did have a little bit of darkening on the inside, so for something like Clark's or Kohan or those kind of other normal brands, I skip if they have that darkening inside. But for Tory Burch, if it has just a little bit, it's not going to affect it much. These in fact also did have the insole a little bit loose and they still ended up selling pretty quickly. Some more wedge boots. These were $17.50 by Michael Kors. Dark brown color, lace up, fur lined inside. I put them aside to do comps, but I did not end up getting them. Here are some more UGG boots. These were $22.50. They did have the sheepskin on the footbed, so that is a plus. The condition looks good overall, but I guess because of the price, I put them back. These boots are very pretty. They are the patent leather, quilted, that chain detail, and also that silver detail right there on the heel. But the bottom sole and the front part of the toe box had too much wear, so I could not get those. These wedge booties were very pretty. They are by Jessica Simpson. They are that slouchy style that I was talking about earlier. $6.50 is a good enough price for Jessica Simpson tall boots. They were in excellent condition at the bottom as well, so I did get those. Lobo Solo for $3.50. I don't know that brand, but it just sounded familiar to me. It sounds like I've heard it somewhere before or saw it around on Poshmark or something, so I decided to put it aside to do comps later, but in the end I did not get them. I think comps just didn't look that great. Peep toe booties by DKNY. Those looked really pretty, but there was too much wear on the heel cap, so I didn't get those either. I got these boots because the cap at the top looked really wide, so I thought it may be a brand that I usually pick up. I did not expect it to be Torrid though. I thought it would be something like Kato, Comfort View, something like that. The fact that it was Torrid, that they were $5 made it a definite yes, even though they are going to need more cleaning than I'd like at the bottom. And I believe these already sold too. These two-tone boots also caught my eye. They were by Vince Camuto. A tiny bit of heel drag on the edge, but not too much. They were $7.50. The inside checked out, no peeling or rips or anything, so I decided to get those. Here we have these Born of Concept boots. I've sold many of these by their other brand called Just Born. They do really well. Born of Concept is their lower end brand, so they may not sell for as much as the others, but I think they will still do good. Besides, those were in great condition. Here we have these Steve Madden sock looking boots with a platform. They were $6.50. Very soft and stretchy fabric on top. I believe I put these off to the side decide to do comps later. If you see a screenshot, I got them. If you don't, that means I left them behind. I liked these Bass & Co. chunky boots. I talked about this earlier when we were at the other store. With Bass and GH Bass & Co., I like to get when they look retro, chunky, Y2K. These looked decent enough. They were only $3.50. I did not end up getting them. I'm not sure why. Maybe the condition wasn't great. Here we have these UGG boots. They were only $15. They did have the sheepskin inside, which is what I like to see with Uggs, but the condition of the suede wasn't that great, so I didn't get those either. Here's J Sport, which I believe is a JBU sub-brand. They were only $5. I've picked up this style of boot many times, but like I mentioned earlier, with JBU, I'm starting to pick up less and less of it, and the same goes with this J Sport sub-brand. I did put them off to the side to decide later, but in the end, I decided not to, just because they don't sell for that much and they take too long to sell. I like these boots because the calf at the top looked very wide, but the condition wasn't good on those. This was an exciting find for me, not like it was going to sell for a whole lot, but the fact that they look like new, at least at the start. At the bottom, they were in excellent condition, a red croc embossed square toe, and by a brand that I sell a lot, Franco Sardo. So it all looked good in the beginning, and I decided to get them even though the price was $12.50, which is a little bit high. And when I got home, I realized that it did have some peeling that I did not see at the store. I think that was another thing that was a big theme with this thrift haul. Things were priced up more than usual, and I ended up getting a lot of shoes that had wear that I did not notice. I was considering these Resell boots, but I did not like how matted and yellowish the fur at the top looked. And here I'm just going down the rest of the aisle, getting any shoes that catch my eye, that have potential. Once I get to the end of the line, I will look at them more thoroughly. So first up, we have these Naturalizer equestrian boots again. They were only $6.50, in overall great condition. I will say that the bottom soles could have been a little bit better, but it wasn't nothing too bad, only slight heel drag at the very corners, and they ended up selling really quickly. Here we have these wide boots. They were by the brand Cloudwalkers, which is one that I will pick up sometimes, but the wear on the bottom on those did not convince me. So here's where I can take the time to explain that to y'all. So those Cloudwalkers by Avenue, the bottom sole wasn't excellent, so I did not get them because that is a cheap brand to begin with. The Naturalizer boots, the bottom soles weren't that excellent, but because Naturalizer is a more noteworthy brand than Cloudwalkers, they still passed. These were some pretty boots, again with the slouch detail and the buckle, but this X Appeal brand is one that I never pick up. It's just not worth much. Some more Vince Camuto boots. These were in like new, excellent condition. They had the lace-up detail in the back. The price was $10, and because of the condition, I thought that was worth it. These Resell boots were $17.50. They appeared to be in excellent condition everywhere, but for some reason the fur looked a little bit dingy in a way. I don't know how that happens, that the whole boot looks excellent but the fur doesn't. In the end, I didn't pick them up because this style of Resell boots is going down in value from what I've seen. I used to be able to get a lot more for them, closer to like the $60, $70 mark, depending on the colorway and the details that it has. But for something simple like this, I could probably only get maybe like $35 to $40, so I decided not to get these. This right here is a style by Nike that is still going strong in my book. It's selling a little bit slower than it used to, but they sell for good prices, and if you can find them cheap enough, there is room for profit with these retro style Nike Shocks. I do pick these up with wear, even if they have some heel drag, stains and things like that, but I will not pick them up if they're unglued. So I always do the dry rot test on these. I will just tug everywhere to make sure that everything is intact and that it's not going to fall apart right when the customer wears them. And after doing that to these shoes, sure enough, they had some damage, so I put those right back. These boots are by the brand Soft, and they are kind of what I would consider the granny style boots like I showed you earlier with Franco Sardo. They were only $7.50, which is a great price for that style of soft boots. Sometimes those can sell for like $50, $60. Vince Camuto pumps can sometimes do good. They were $7.50 and the condition just wasn't there for them, so I put those back. Chelsea style Clark boots is a great one to pick up. These were $5. I was kind of hesitant to pick them up because of the wear. They weren't in great condition overall. It's just the front toe box that had a little bit of creasing, but because of the color and because of the style, I decided to get them, and they ended up selling pretty quickly. Here's these chain style 9 West loafers. At first glance, they look like they're in great condition and that they'd be a great pickup, but just by feeling them, the quality of them felt so bad, so I did not get those. Here are these Dansko sandals in excellent condition, and they were only $3.50, even though they're not going to sell till the summer. Because of the price, I got those. Here are these Clark shoes. They were $7.50 and they had a little bit of espadrille detail on the side. Those I don't remember if I got, so check out the screenshots to see. Then we have these Vionic loafers. This would have been a definite yes if the condition and cleanliness of them was a lot better. And the best find in that aisle were these naturalizer boots. You don't find green boots that often, so when I saw these, I was excited about them. They also have that quilting padded detail at the top for only $7.50 in great condition. This was a definite yes. I pick up some Jack Rogers sometimes. They're not the best of sellers for me. They sell pretty slowly, but those looked pretty. I'm not sure. Maybe the price was too high. These were beautiful with the bow crystal details in the back, pointed toe. I think they were by Gianni Bini, if I'm not mistaken. With white shoes, you have to be very careful that they're not stained. Sometimes you can get those stains off, sometimes you can't. Those I decided not to try. Here we have these Dr. Comfort shoes, which I do get sometimes if they're in excellent condition. Those did not pass that test. These are Cynthia Crowley shoes. I never pick these up. I don't know how to say this brand. I feel like I've sold it once before. Just by looking at them, I can see that these are high quality boots, but because of the condition, I did not even bother to look up comps on them or anything. Here we have this brand called Comfort View. I love picking this up when they are a wide width. I believe these were a wide width, but I did not like the overall style of them and the cleanliness too. Not enough good things for me to pick them up. Here we have these Clark's unstructured shoes. They were pretty with the metallic gold color, but it seemed a little bit discolored on the fabric in certain areas, so I put those back. Dream Pairs is one of my favorite cheap brands to pick up. And again, with cheap brands, I want them to be priced cheap at the thrift store, preferably $5 and below, and I need them to be in excellent condition. These Dream Pair pumps passed all of those tests, plus pumps is a great style that I sell a lot of, so I decided to get those, and if I'm not mistaken, they have already sold. Steve Madden chunky athletic shoes like this can do well sometimes depending on the colorway and the style. I've sold some in the past on consignment, so I'm always on the lookout for these, but I guess thrift stores know that these Steve Madden shoes do well because they always price them way too high. These were, I think, $15, so that was a no. Here we have these Sperry Duck boots. I was doing really well with these last winter in 2023. I was picking them up every time I saw them. This winter in 2024 going into 2025, they are not selling as well as they used to, so I'm being a lot more selective with them and skipping them a lot more often. Here's these Live Stride pumps. Very similar to dream pairs. I will pick them up if they're in like new condition and very cheap. I like that these had the d'Orsay feature as well on the sides. They were only $5, but the condition wasn't there. The toe cap on the heel had a little bit of drag. Here we have these Born of Concept lace up grunge style boots. They were only $5, but I believe the inside was just a little bit too dark for me, so I decided to put them back. These Clark Collection sandals were very pretty, excellent for summer, but the condition was not that great. And at $7.50, it wasn't worth it for me. Here we have these Converse furry multicolor shoes. The shoelaces were missing. They were $12.50. The suede wasn't in the best of condition. The inside was dirty. So yeah, that was a big no. These platform boots were by the brand Lucky Brand. They were $7.50, but because of the wear, that was also a no. Here we have these Clark shoes. The bottoms are in okay condition overall. They were only $8.50, and that is a little bit pricey for an old style Clark shoe. But the thing with old styles is that sometimes they're older styles, but they look more vintage, retro, and cool. And that's the case with these shoes here. Even though there are an older style of Clarks, the style is timeless. People still look for these Mary Jane style double strap pumps. So that's why I decided to go for them, even though they were priced a little bit on the higher end. And I guess it was a good decision because they did end up selling pretty quickly. This brand Flourishing, I like to buy in the men's section. These are kids shoes that were in the women's section. They were only $4.50, but they did have a little bit of scuffing near the front toe box. I did put them aside to do comps on them. In the end, I decided they wouldn't be worth it. These shoes have just a C on them, but I believe that stands for Kato. Either way, that brand I like to pick up when it is cheap, like new, a wide width, and a good style. I love the style of those shoes. The color was pretty, the ruffles, the pointed toe, but they weren't a wide width, and for $5, I did not feel too convinced. This is a brand I skip a lot. I don't even know how to say it. Etienne Aigner. They were $8.50, which is pricey for this brand. And the bottom though, it did say that they were all leather, the top, the inside, and the bottom, and they were a pretty yellow color, a mule style. Summer and spring are coming up, so it looks like a spring style to me. I decided to give it a shot. Here are these Dansko sandals, similar to the ones I showed earlier. These are also $3.50, but the condition on these is not as great as the other ones, so I skipped those. Then we have these super high heel Guess wedge denim studded beaded heels. So many great things about them. Maybe they're going to take a little while to sell because they are so high heel. It takes a special person to want to wear those, but I decided to get them. These shoes right here were so beautiful to me. The retro look and the clog style, the lacing detail in the front with those gold grommets, but the heel cap had too much wear. They were surprisingly $10, which for Michael Kors is a decent price at the store. They're not pricing Michael Kors as much as they used to, but I just could not get over the condition of them because inside as well they had stains and stuff. So I decided to put those back, but part of me still regrets it. Now we get to these Eurosoft by Soft. So it is a sub-brand of Soft, a cheaper version. These were just the classic Mary Jane style shoes. Condition didn't check out on those, so I left them behind. These clog style shoes were $7.50. They were leather on top. I'm not sure why I decided not to get those. Maybe I was thinking they were Loft Factory. That was a dumb decision. I should have got those, but I left them behind. Here we have these Eileen Fisher shoes. Great condition overall on the bottom. They have that knot bow-like detail at the top. D'Orsay style for only $4.50. That is a great price and a definite yes for this brand. Here are these Steve Madden platform sandals. They were $5. The stretchy fabric in the front, the Y2K grungy style. That white label right there does look a little bit dark, but I know that even just with the simple disinfecting wipe, that's going to get very white and then they're going to look in like new condition. I've sold this style before. It sold really fast, so I decided to get it again. I like picking up this style of pumps. I like to use keywords like rockabilly, pinup, vixen, but the condition didn't pass on those, so I didn't get them. Here's some more Steve Madden shoes, again with the chunky chain loafers. I picked up the same shoe in the last thrift with me and it sold pretty quickly, so I'm doing it again. They were $6.50. Here we have these Clarks for $7.50. Too much heel drag, so I left them behind. These Adriana Papel shoes were only $3.50. And again, I'm not sure why I did not pick these up. They were so cheap and they were also leather inside. I don't know what my decision process was for those. This brand right here, P448, can do really good. They sell for a lot of money and a lot of the times I don't have to pay up too much for them. These were $12.50, but they were in like new condition, so that was a definite yes, and they sold really quick. Here's these Coach shoes. I recently sold some like these and they took like, I don't know, 700 or more days to sell. And then on top of that, they wanted $22.50. No, thank you. These Coach boots were pretty. Again, $22.50. Wedge style, quilted. Could have worked, but I would need them to be a lot cheaper than $22.50. Here's this brand I talked about earlier, Floor Sheen. I find them in the men's shoe section most of the time. I don't think I've ever seen women's shoes by this brand. This brand looked too outdated and the overall condition wasn't that great, so I did not pick those up. That's a wrap. We just left that second store. I got a total of 31 items and spent a total of $266.56. We could easily get to the 80 or 90 items if we went to the third store, but I think that's enough for now. What time is it? Like 1? It's 1:25. Since it's a holiday, the baby didn't go to daycare. He's at home with his older siblings, so I'm trying to make it back home early, and maybe like 65 items altogether in one day is still pretty good. If you like this video, let me know by giving me a thumbs up down below. That helps this video reach more people and it just supports the channel overall. If you learn any new brands from watching today, let me know down in the comments too. And Benji wants to make sure that I tell y'all, subscribe if you're not already. Thank you if you made it all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.